my YouTube channel. This week I have another sweatshirt transformation for you. This is the color Goldenrod, and it's just a real pretty soft yellow. This is a Comfort Colors sweatshirt, and I'll have all the links down below so you can see I do have a supplier for where I get my sweatshirts. And this one will be in my Etsy shop and also in my summer boutique at the flea market. I did a real, I don't know, it's just like a fun design. It's simple, but I incorporated vintage lace on the embellishments. And I'll zoom in a little bit and kind of show you some of the details and also take you through the steps on how I created this. I wanted to just mention a little bit about the unisex sweatshirt sizing, which is what this is. The unisex size sweatshirts have more fabric like underneath the arms and in the shoulders. They're a little bit longer. The sleeves are really long. A lot of times I'll cut the cuffs off. I really like using the unisex sizing. I find them to be very comfortable, and especially for jackets, there's just like a little bit more room to slip them over. But even without it being converted to a jacket, they have a real comfort feel to them, and they're just a little bit roomier. I'm going to zoom in and show you some of the details on this, and then we'll get started. I cut the neckband off, did a little slit, edge finished it, so it has almost a square up here, and then just added a little bit of the embellishment or a little bit of the vintage lace, and then added a button. And that is all I did to the top of the sweatshirt. On the bottom of the sweatshirt, I did leave the band on, but I cut a slit up and then edge finished, and then add a little bit of the embellishment of the vintage lace and a button. This kind of gives it a little bit of more room, and has been just a real nice feature. And then I wanted to show you some of the sleeve detail. I did roll the sleeve up. I cut the cuff off, rolled the sleeve up twice into like a deep cuff. So it's going to be like a 3/4 or right below the elbow. And then I added the vintage lace to part of the sleeve. And that is all I did on this sweatshirt. I think it turned out really cute. It's got a real kind of a summer vibe to it, but just a romantic, fun look. So let's get started. I'm going to show you the steps and how I created it. Let's talk a little bit about the lace first of all. Whenever I go to a flea market or a thrift store, the very first thing or the first area I look is their craft area, because you cannot believe what you're going to find. This is just some of my things that I found just this last month at my local thrift store. This I'm sure is vintage, and this is the one that I used on the sweatshirt that I'm going to be working on today. I got this whole roll for about, I think it was $2, and it's just lovely. I love it because you can cut pieces of it so easily. There's perfect little flower motifs in it, leaves, scalloped edges. I also picked this one. This was a whole spool for $1, and it's nice and wide, so easily can be added to the bottom of a t-shirt. This one I just picked up last week, and it was just laying loose on the shelf, and so I brought it up to the checkout and I asked how much it was, and she said $1/4. So I was like, okay, I think I'll take that. It's kind of like a real rich navy blue, and again it has wonderful motifs in it, or little flowers and leaves, and love the scalloped edge on it. So just to keep your eye open for finds like this. All flea markets too are awesome places to find, because people don't, either they don't want it anymore, or they just don't realize how expensive this kind of thing can run you. So that's my lace. And getting on to just the cutting, there's a little bit of deconstruction to this sweatshirt, but not a lot. I cut the cuffs off. I'm going to cut the cuffs right above the stitching line. I rolled the bottom of the sleeve on the sweatshirt up twice in a deep, kind of a deeper roll. and cutting off the second cuff and doing the same thing with this side. I'm at the bottom of the sweatshirt now, and I'm leaving the band on. I'm going to cut straight up through the band and through the sweatshirt on just on the front side, and I'm going to be cutting up approximately through the band, but also approximately about 4 inches up on the shirt itself. And I'm not in the center, I'm off center on the right hand side as it's laying down. This will be the left hand side when you're wearing it. For the neckband deconstruction, I'm going to be cutting off the neckband. This particular sweatshirt has a covered seam in the back. I'm going to be cutting above that covered seam, also leaving the tag on. And then once I get past that covered seam, I'm staying above the stitching line and just removing that band itself. This sweatshirt has drop shoulders. I like to line those shoulders up on the inside to get the center front of the neck. And I'll mark that center front with just a little mechanical pencil and just a really light mark. Laying it flat on the table, I now just kind of eyeball this next mark. I like to cut down approximately 1.5 inches and just kind of eyeball the center. And then I'll cut, making sure I'm cutting just the front and cutting through the two little marks. It's soon to the sewing machine, but I do like to pin this top down. I like this to be open and laying so it's almost completely straight across, or almost like a square. I'm going to be taking this to my regular sewing machine now, and I'm going to be using an applique stitch that's similar, looks kind of like a blanket stitch. However, you can certainly just use a zigzag. Also, a feather stitch would look really nice on this. But I'm going to stitch this down. It's going to be straight across. I'm also going to edge finish with that same applique stitch. I'm going to edge finish all the way up this and all the way down. And then with my regular just straight stitch, I'm going to just stitch about 1 inch on the seam part, the back part of this cuff, just to keep that back part in place. The applique covers most of the front part, so that is going to also be stitched down. But I want to make sure that that's secure, so when it is laundered, it's going to stay in place. So I'm going to be back when I get those places all stitched up, and we'll be moving on to the lace. This is what the stitch looks like. And I also added it to the bottom vent. And notice how it kind of waves. Knits will do that. But an easy solution on this particular one is to just press it down. So that is all finished off. And then just to show you, I just added a little bit of a stitch right on the back side of the sleeve cuff, just with a regular straight stitch. Now it's on to the vintage lace. I figured it takes about approximately 6 of these scallops per sweatshirt. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm using 2 of the motifs for each one of the sleeves. When when you look at the lace, you can see the front side and the back side. I want to lay it so the front side is up and centering it over the top of this cuff. I do like a little bit of it hanging over the edge and a little bit of over the top also. And I'm going to be just pinning this in place. There's a very pretty kind of delicate little flower on these motifs. I'm going to be using 2 of those. One for the top of the vent on the bottom band of the sweatshirt, and then one on the neckline. So I'm just carefully cutting those out. Also for the neckline, I am using 2 of these scalloped curves. Now, your vintage lace that you find may be totally different than this, and that's okay. You'll be able to make it work and make it unique to your sweatshirt. I also wanted to mention that I did pre-test this to make sure that it was washable, and it was. I wanted to make sure that it didn't fall apart during washing, and also that it didn't shrink, because if it shrinks on the garment, it's going to distort the garment. And so I actually sewed a piece on fabric similar to a sweatshirt and threw it into the wash, and it came out just fine. But you do want to test it first. I'm going to cut the other scalloped and the other flower out. I have my flowers and my scallops cut out, and I do have some extra little pieces here. A really cool leaf and just some real delicate lace. I will not throw these away. I love adding these to fabric collages or little bracelets or cuffs. So I have a little bag that I kind of keep that kind of thing in. There's going to be a little motif right above this vent. Another little motif at the top here. And then these little scallops too, I'm going to lay just on either side of that motif. And pin into place. I will be taking this to the sewing machine. I'm sewing them on using a free motion, kind of just a meander stitch. I'm going to just meander all over the lace using a cream colored thread on the top and regular bobbin thread on the bottom. This is a very kind of a tricky area to sew. It'll fit over my open arm, but I'm not going to be able to move it to free motion. And so a trick that I use to do anything is I am going to turn this sleeve inside out, and I am going to be sewing in the round. It looks real, it doesn't look like it'd be easier right now, but trust me, it is a lot easier to sew in the round on this particular, this spot. I'm going to be setting it up at the sewing machine so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, but turn the sleeve inside out to sew this any kind of lace or anything on a cuff. I have my embroidery foot on and my feed dogs dropped, and I'm working inside this sleeve, making sure I remove these pins first of all so I'm not hitting that. I like to start in the middle of my design in this particular kind of area just to make sure that it just kind of, and then work out. And I'm just going to be meander stitching and just catching that lace just here and there. If I need to adjust it, it's easy to do. Finishing off my stitching here by just kind of going in a circular motion to tie the knot. I'm doing the neckband next. Onto the motif above the bottom. My lace embellishments are all on. I wanted to show you the cuff area too. It has kind of a quilted look. I just meander stitched it. The last step on this sweatshirt is to add the buttons. I put up a little button right here and also one above the little slit. Another great thrift store, flea market find is buttons. And I like to kind of separate them by color. I have my creams and my whites in one drawer and my colors in another drawer, and then I like to keep my large ones separate. And I'm just going to pick out, they don't need to match. I'm just going to pick out a couple buttons that I think will work well for this. And I'm going to be sewing these on with my sewing machine. I'm changing the presser foot to my regular foot, and I'm going to be adding my little button sewing on attachment here, or foot, and just popping this one off and sticking this one on. I do have my sewing machine set to button sewing. I'm sliding this underneath, lowering my presser foot. On my machine, the left hole has to be really close to the little side of the foot, and then I usually will walk, and I'm gonna have to widen this up a little bit. I walk the first stitch, and then I go ahead and start sewing. That way I know it's not going to hit the side of the button and break my button or my needle. And I do it twice just to make sure I've got plenty of thread in there, and it's automatically tying the knot. Now if this was a stress button or a button that needs to be fastened and it has a closure to it, I would take the threads to the back and tie a knot. But because this is just a decorative button, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to clip the threads. And that's how easy it is to sew on a button using your sewing machine. And I have one more to go here. Sliding the button underneath and getting it lined up. Lowering the presser foot. Getting it into the right position here. And again, walking my machine the first stitch and then just going for it. One more time, and it's going to automatically stop. Cutting my thread. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a chance to give this a try and just kind of put some new life into a sweatshirt. And also remember just to, it's all about the hunt when you're going to a thrift store or a flea market, and you just never know what you're going to come up with or find. So happy hunting and happy sewing. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And also I'll link my other sweatshirt transformation videos. That's all for today. Thanks again. Bye.